Some mistakes leave scars, and some scars become stories, and some stories become warnings for generations yet unborn. Welcome to KCA Production, where we bring you amazing stories, where we bring you entertainment, where we bring you gist, and where we bring you beautiful documentaries. We just want to ensure that by sticking to this channel, you always have reasons to be excited, to be happy, and to be joyful. And today, we're going to be telling you the story of Daniel Kerr, a former newspaper editing seeking redemption. In this channel, we have already showed the part 1, and today we would be looking at the part 2. I'm going to run through quickly a summary of the part 1, but before we go ahead, I'd like to ask that you please subscribe to KCA Production, like this channel, turn on post notification, share your thoughts in the comment section, and please, again and again, subscribe. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. This is Blow by Blow Part 2 from KCA Production. Years after losing everything to jealousy, Daniel Kerr now spends his life helping others avoid the path that destroyed his own. But redemption is never a destination. It is a journey filled with difficult choices, painful memories, and opportunities to prove that change is real. Can a man who once destroyed a life become a force that saves others? Can a community trust someone whose past still haunts him? And when new challenges arise, will Daniel remain faithful to the lessons he has learned? This is not a story about forgetting the past. It is a story about living responsibly in its shadow. Now, here's a summary of part 1. Daniel was once a respected newspaper editor living in Cape Town. Successful, admired, and engaged to the woman he loved, Lena Morris. Daniel appeared to have everything, but beneath his success lay deep insecurity and a dangerous need for control. When Lena ended their relationship and asked for space, Daniel's jealousy spiraled into obsession. Unable to accept rejection, he crossed boundaries repeatedly until tragedy struck. Years later, after serving his prison sentence, Daniel was released into a world that had moved on without him. Burdened by guilt and regret, he began sharing his story with young people, warning them about the dangers of jealousy, possessiveness, and emotional control. Though he cannot undo the past, Daniel has chosen a new mission: to tell the truth, to accept responsibility, and to spend the rest of his life helping others choose differently. So, here you have it, Blow by Blow Part 2. Redemption is often mistaken for a moment, a decision, a prayer, a speech. But redemption is not a moment. It is what happens the morning after. It is chosen differently when no one is watching. And for Daniel, every sunrise still carries a question. Who will you be today? The city wakes beneath a bright sky. Children run across a nearby field. Cars move steadily through traffic. A large banner hangs outside the community center. Youth Empowerment Week. Daniel arrives carrying folders and bottled water. He looks older, calmer. The weight remains in his eyes, but so does purpose. Mrs. Dubé waits near the entrance. She says to him, "You're early." Trying something new. Being responsible? I was hoping for professional. They laugh lightly. Inside, volunteers prepare chairs. Daniel immediately joins in. No speeches, no attention, just work. Teenagers begin arriving. One catches Daniel's attention: Jordan Nkosi, 17, restless, angry, guarded. Jordan sits at the back with folded arms. Daniel recognizes the look instantly. He used to wear it himself. The session begins. Mrs. Dubé introduces Daniel. Scattered applause follows. Daniel steps forward. And Daniel says, "When I was your age, I thought strength meant controlling every outcome. It doesn't. Strength is accepting that some things are beyond your control." Jordan rolls his eyes. Daniel notices but continues. The hardest lesson I've ever learned was that people are not possessions. They are choices, and sometimes those choices don't include you. The room grows quiet. Jordan looks away but is listening. The program ends in the afternoon. Most students leave. Jordan remains behind. Daniel approaches carefully. You look like you disagreed with half of what I said. Maybe all of it. Fair enough. People only talk like that after life beats them. Daniel nods. That's true. Jordan studies him. My father used to say nobody leaves him. Then one day my mother did. He smashed everything in the house. Daniel's expression changes. He hears echoes of himself. Maybe your story isn't as different as you think. Jordan walks away. Daniel watches him go. Concern settles across his face. Daniel sits at his desk. He opens his notebook and writes. Met a boy named Jordan. Anger in his eyes, pain underneath, must not ignore it. He closes the book. Outside, the city glows softly. For the first time in years, Daniel feels something unfamiliar. Responsibility for someone else's future. Sometimes redemption arrives disguised as responsibility, not for what happened yesterday, but for what might happen tomorrow. And somewhere in Cape Town, two lives had just crossed paths. Neither of them knew it yet, but both were about to change. Pain rarely introduces itself honestly. It hides behind sarcasm, behind silence, behind anger. The word notices the temper, but few people stop long enough to ask what is hurting underneath. Daniel knew that truth all too well. Because years ago, he had hidden behind anger too, and now he had seen the same storm in someone else. The city bustles with life. Taxi horns echo through the streets. Street vendors arrange their goods. Daniel walks toward the community center carrying a backpack. His notebook is tucked under his arm. The words Jordan spoke yesterday linger in his mind. People only talk like that after life beats them. Daniel knows there is truth in those words. Mrs. Dubé sorts through paperwork. Daniel enters. Mrs. Dubé says to him, Back already? Couldn't stop thinking about one of the boys. Mrs. Dubé smiles knowingly. Jordan? That obvious? The angry one always stands out. Daniel sits. What's the story? Mrs. Dubé hesitates. His father left 6 months ago. His mother works 2 jobs. He's been suspended twice from school and is constantly getting into fights. Daniel lowers his eyes. The pattern feels familiar. Pain, isolation, anger. Students gather around a heated argument in the afternoon at a football field. Jordan stands face to face with another teenager. Tension crackles. Say it again, the other boy smirks. I said your father ran away. Jordan lunges. A fight erupts. Students scream. Teachers rush in. The boys are separated. Jordan struggles against the teachers holding him back. His rage feels larger than the moment, much larger. At the principal's office later, Jordan sits alone. Bruised knuckles, heavy breathing. The principal shakes his head. This has to stop. Jordan stares at the floor, no response. A knock sounds. Daniel enters. Jordan immediately frowns. What are you doing here? Mrs. Dubé called me. Great, now I get a lecture. Not interested in giving one. Jordan looks surprised. Daniel sits opposite him. You know what anger does? Gets people off your back. For a few minutes, then it starts building a prison around you. Jordan's expression hardens. Trust me, I know. For the first time, Jordan looks directly at him, not with respect, not yet, but with curiosity. The students have gone home. Daniel and Jordan walk slowly toward the gate. Neither speaks for a while. Finally, Jordan says, You ever eat somebody? Daniel pauses. The question lands heavily. I've hurt people more than I can ever undo. Jordan kicks a stone along the pavement. He says, Sometimes I feel like something inside me is broken. Daniel stops walking. No, something inside you is hurting. Those aren't the same thing. Jordan says nothing, but his eyes soften. Just lightly. A small crack in a very high wall. Later that night at Daniel's room, Daniel sits at his desk again. He opens the notebook, writes carefully. Anger is often grief with nowhere to go. He pauses, then adds, Jordan needs help before his pain becomes his identity. Daniel closes the notebook. Outside, rain begins to fall. The most dangerous wounds are not the ones we can see, they are the wounds that convince us to become what hurt us. Tonight, a boy wrestled with anger, and a man wrestled with memory. Neither battle was over, but for the first time, neither of them was fighting alone. Every angry child has a story. Not every story is spoken. Some are hidden behind closed doors, some are buried beneath pride, and some wait patiently for someone willing to listen. For Daniel, helping Jordan was beginning to feel less like a project and more like a responsibility. The problem was that pain rarely belongs to one person. It often lives inside an entire family. At the community center in the morning, a grey sky hangs over Cape Town. Daniel arrives early for another youth session. Before he reaches the entrance, Mrs. Dubé hurries toward him, concern written across her face. I was about to call you. What's wrong? Jordan was arrested last night. Daniel stops working. What happened? Fight outside a convenience store. Nothing serious. They released him this morning. But something is getting worse. Daniel exhales heavily. The news doesn't surprise him. It worries him. On the afternoon at the Nkosi family home, a modest house stands at the edge of a crowded neighborhood. Paint peels from the walls, the gate hangs slightly crooked. Daniel approaches cautiously, children play nearby. Music drifts from a distant radio. He knocks. After a moment, the door opens. Maya Nkosi, 14, appears. She studies him carefully. You are the man from the youth program, and you must be Jordan's sister. She nods. He's inside, not talking to anyone. Daniel offers a small smile. Good luck, you'll need it. The house is tidy but worn, evidence of a family trying its best. Jordan sits alone on the couch, staring at a switched-off television. He doesn't look up. You followed me home. I came to check on you. Why? Because nobody checked on me when I needed it. Jordan finally looks at him. The answer catches him off guard. Moments later, a tense silence fills the room. Daniel notices several framed family photos. In older pictures, Jordan's father stands proudly beside his family. In newer ones, he is absent, a missing piece impossible to ignore. You miss him, Jordan laughs bitterly. I hate him. Maybe, Jordan stands abruptly. He left us. He promised he'd stay, then one day he packed a bag and disappeared. You know what everyone says? They're better off without him. Jordan shakes his head. Nobody asks if I wanted a choice. Daniel listens quietly. I kept waiting for him to call every day, every stupid day. His voice cracks. For the first time, the anger slips away. Underneath, it sits at break. Raw and exposed. Jordan's mother, Thandi Nkosi, enters from work. Exhaustion hangs on her face. She freezes when she sees Daniel. You're Daniel Kerr. Jordan told me about you. I hope that's a good thing. Honestly, I don't know. Jordan doesn't trust people easily anymore. She glances toward her son. Neither do I. Daniel nods. He understands. Trust is expensive, especially after betrayal. Daniel prepares to leave. Jordan follows him outside. The neighborhood glows beneath the setting sun. Why do you keep coming back? Daniel thinks for a moment. Because someone once told me that every tragedy is preceded by a moment where another choice was possible. Jordan studies him. I think you're standing in one of those moments right now. The words linger. Jordan says nothing, but for the first time, he doesn't walk away. The past is a patient thing. It does not knock. It waits, it lingers in photographs, in familiar streets, in unfinished regrets, and sometimes just when you think you've learned how to live with it, it returns to ask a difficult question. Have you truly changed? For Daniel, that question was about to arrive in human form. The youth empowerment program is thriving. Teenagers gather in groups, laughing and talking. Volunteers have cheers, and distributes refreshments. Daniel stands near the entrance, helping a young volunteer carry supplies. For the first time in years, he feels useful. Purpose has slowly replaced isolation. Mrs. Dubé approaches carrying a folder. You've become quite popular around here. Let's not exaggerate. The youth keep asking for you. Daniel smiles. Before he can reply, a voice interrupts from behind. Daniel Kerr? The smile disappears instantly. Daniel turns. Standing several feet away is Detective Grant. Older now, grey-haired, sharp-eyed, the retired detective who led the investigation that changed Daniel's life forever. Silence hangs heavily between them. Daniel and Grant sit across from one another. A small table separates them. Neither man seems comfortable. Grant says, You look different. Daniel replies, Prison has that effect. Grant studies him carefully. I heard about your outreach work. People talk. Some do. A pause. Why are you here? Grant folds his hands. Because I spent years believing your story ended in prison. Looks like I was wrong. Daniel says nothing. I wanted to see for myself. Daniel leans back. And I haven't decided yet. The honesty stings, but Daniel accepts it. Trust cannot be demanded, only earned. Jordan sits alone on the bench, headphones in, music loud, anger louder. Daniel approaches. You always find me. Occupational hazard. Jordan almost smiles. Almost. Daniel sits beside him. Neither speaks immediately. The silence feels easier now. My mother says I need counseling. What do you think? I think people only go to counseling when they are broken. Daniel looks ahead. Then I must have been shattered. Jordan removes one earbud. The answer surprises him. Getting help isn't weakness. Pretending you don't need help is. Jordan absorbs the words. For once, it doesn't argue. The day's activities are ending. Daniel gathers his belongings. As he exits the hall, he notices someone standing across the parking lot. A woman, watching, still familiar. His breath catches. Nandi Morris, Lena's sister. The last time they spoke was by the coastline months ago. The memory returns instantly. Daniel hesitates. Part of him wants to leave. Part of him knows running is no longer an option. He walks toward her slowly, carefully. Nandi says, Hello, Daniel. Nandi. She studies him quietly. I heard you've been helping young people. I'm trying. Nandi nods. Neither knows what comes next. The history between them is too large for small talk. There's something we need to discuss. Daniel's stomach tightens. Not here. Tomorrow, if you're willing. Daniel feels old fear stirring, but he also feels something stronger, courage. I'll be there. Nandi nods once and leaves. Daniel watches her disappear into the evening crowd. The past had returned and he was asking for another conversation. At Daniel's room on the night, Daniel sits at his desk. His notebook lies open. He writes slowly. Redemption is tested when old wounds reappear. He places the pen down. For several moments, he simply stares at the page, thinking, remembering, preparing. Growth is easy to claim when life is calm. The real test comes when yesterday returns. When old faces appear, when old pain speaks your name. Tonight, Daniel stood at the intersection between who he was and who he hopes to become. And tomorrow would reveal whether change are truly taking root. Some conversations change a life, others reveal one. For Daniel, the next meeting with Nandi Morris would uncover something he never expected. Not forgiveness, not acceptance, but a responsibility he never saw coming. The ocean rolls gently behind a small outdoor cafe. Daniel arrives early, nervous. Nandi soon approaches carrying an old envelope. She sits across from him. Neither speaks immediately. Before Lena died, she wrote this. Daniel freezes. His eyes lock onto the envelope. A letter. Nandi nods. She wrote it during the final weeks of your relationship. I found it recently while sorting through some of her things. Daniel looks away, unsure whether he deserves to hear any of it. It wasn't addressed to you, but I think you should know what it says. She carefully unfolds the paper. The handwriting is unmistakably Lena's. Nandi written. Daniel isn't a bad man, he's a hurting man. The problem is that hurt people sometimes create hurt around them. I hope one day he finds peace. And I hope one day I stop feeling responsible for his happiness. Daniel lowers his head. Emotion floods his face. There is more. If Daniel ever learned how to love himself, he could help many people. But until then, he'll keep looking for himself in others. Silence. The waves crash softly nearby. Daniel wipes his eyes and says, "She saw things I couldn't." "She always did," says Nandi. At the cafe later, the conversation continues. Nandi says, "I'm not giving you forgiveness. Not today." "I understand. But I think she'd want you to keep helping those kids." Daniel looks at the letter again. A strange mixture of grief and gratitude settles inside him. For years, he had been haunted by what Lena thought of him in the end. Now he knows. Not hatred, not fear, sadness and hope. Daniel arrives carrying copies of workshop materials in the afternoon at the community center. Jordan notices his unusually quiet mood. "You okay?" Daniel smiles faintly. "Today, I learned something important." "What?" "People can see potential in us long before we see it ourselves." Jordan thinks about that. For reasons he doesn't fully understand, the words stay with him. Daniel carefully places the copy of Lena's letter inside his notebook. For the first time in years, our memory feels like a punishment and more like a responsibility. The dead cannot return, but sometimes their words do. And when they arrive, they ask us to live differently. Tonight, Daniel received a gift wrapped in grief, a reminder that redemption is not about deserving another chance. It is about the one you have already been given. Change is not a straight road. Even the strongest resolve can stumble, especially when old wounds are untouched. Growth is tested not when temptation disappears, but when it returns. At the hallway in the afternoon, students rush between classes. Jordan stands against a locker. His face is tense. Across the corridor, a group of boys laugh. One of them mentions Jordan's father. The words eat a nerve. And the boy says, "Maybe he left because he couldn't stand you." Jordan's fists tighten. His breathing changes. The anger returns instantly. Years of hurt condensed into a single moment. A fight erupts. Students scream, teachers rush in. Jordan throws punches widely. Months of frustration explode at once. By the time adults separate them, several students are injured. Jordan is dragged away, still shouting, still furious. At the principal's office later, Jordan sits alone, ashamed, angry, confused. Daniel enters. Neither speaks immediately. And he says to Daniel, "Go ahead. Tell me I failed." Daniel sits beside him. "You did fail." Jordan looks up, surprised. But failure isn't the end of the story. It is the place where the next decision begins. Jordan looks away. "I thought I was getting better." "You are. Healing doesn't happen in a straight line." At the evening, in the school parking lot, Daniel walks Jordan home. The boy's confidence is shattered. "Maybe I'm becoming my father." Daniel stops. "No. The fact that you're worried about that means you're already different." Jordan's eyes fill with tears. For the first time, he doesn't hide them. A life, once destroyed by selfishness, can still become useful. Not because the past disappears, but because pain becomes purpose, and purpose becomes service. At the morning in the community center, volunteers fill the hall, tables are arranged, banners are raised. Excitement fills the room. Daniel stands beside Mrs. Dube and Pastor Mthembu. A new initiative is launching, a support program for troubled youths. Workshops, counseling, mentorship, a place for young people struggling with anger, rejection, and emotional trauma. Pastor Mthembu says, "Ready?" Daniel surveys the room, "As ready as I'll ever be." The lunch begins. Parents, teachers, and students attend. Jordan sits proudly in the front row. A very different boy from the one who first walked into the center. Mrs. Dube introduces Daniel. Applause follows. Daniel steps forward. "Years ago, I believed my story ended with my worst mistake. I was wrong. Your worst decision should never become your permanent identity." The audience listens carefully. Pain can teach compassion. Failure can teach wisdom, and accountability can teach freedom. The room erupts into applause. After the event, Jordan approaches. You know you were really annoying when we first met. Daniel laughs. Only when you first met me. Okay, maybe still. They both laugh. A genuine friendship now exists where distrust once lived. Sometimes the greatest victory is not changing your own life, it is helping someone else changing theirs. And tonight, the foundation was built not from success, but from lessons learned the hard way. Waves crash against the rocks at sunsets. At Cape Town coastline, the sky glows orange and gold. Daniel stands quietly overlooking the ocean, the same coastline where so many painful memories once lived. Pastor Mthembu joins him, and he says, "You've come a long way." "Not far enough." Pastor smiles. "That's why you keep going." They watch the horizon together. A youth event is underway. Laughter fills the hall. Jordan helps organize activities. Maya volunteers at the registration desk. Mrs. Dube oversees everything proudly. Life continues. Hope continues. Daniel watches from a distance, not seeking attention, simply grateful. The event ends later. People head home. Jordan approaches Daniel. "You know what?" "What?" "You were right. Anger wasn't who I was. It was just what I was crying." Daniel smiles. "And now?" "Now I'm carrying something better." The two stand beneath the streetlight. A mentor, a student. Two lives forever changed. Daniel opens his notebook. One final entry. "If I cannot change yesterday, I can still influence tomorrow." He closes the book. Looks toward the horizon and smiles. Not because the pain is gone, but because purpose remains. The future is never guaranteed. None of us know how many days remain, but we all choose what to do with the days we have. For Daniel Kerr, the answer had finally become clear. Redemption does not erase consequences. It does not rewrite history, and it does not bring back what was lost. But redemption can transform a warning into wisdom, a wound into service, and a broken life into a bridge for others. Daniel could never change the past, but he learned something greater. The future belongs to those willing to grow beyond it. Guys, this was Blow by Blow Part 2. And it's the weight of tomorrow. It's a reminder that jealousy destroys and that control corrupts. But you know what can heal? Accountability. It's important to remember and know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And tough times don't last, but tough people do. So when life throws something at you, you hold on, take it, learn all that there is to learn, and make the best use of it. Who would have thought that Daniel would redeem himself this way and even become a mentor to someone who could have lost it, Jordan? This is KCA Production, and we are committed to bringing you stories that touch and shape on lives. Stories that is filled with insight and lessons. Documentaries and entertainment gist that would brighten your day. If this particular story inspired you, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to KCA Production for more life-changing stories, movies, and of course, inspirational content. This is our delight at KCA Production to ensure that we continue to bring smiles to your faces. Okay, thank you for watching. See you again in the next production.